We're joined by Australian umpire Paul Reiffel, and he's going to talk to us a bit about the responsibilities of being an international umpire, how he became one, and also a bit about his career in the professional game. Paul, thanks for joining the Sledge.
Yeah, pleasure.
So, as somebody who had a very long and distinguished professional career, who is now an umpire, do you now regard yourself as an umpire or as a former player?
It's a really difficult question to answer. Obviously, I'd spent so much time playing that obviously that's there, but I really don't see myself as that player. I do see myself as an umpire. You really do throw yourself into everything that you're doing at the present time, and that's what I am. I'm an umpire now, and I played the game, but that was in the past, and everyone moves on, and there's all younger, newer players coming along every year, and the game moves on. So that was the thing about joining the umpiring, was that I could stay involved in the game, but really challenge myself each year and do something completely different. So I see myself as an umpire now, and sometimes I struggle to associate myself as the player. Sometimes you'll see some old footage on television of an old game, and it's really hard to associate myself being there, to be honest, because now everything I do is about umpiring, and that's how I see the game now.
And how was that transition? Did you find it easy to move from being a player into an umpire, or did you find yourself kind of wanting to turn your arm over in the early days?
No, it was really difficult early. I didn't want to play the game, to be honest. I played my last game and I was quite happy to retire. So I've never really wanted to go back to playing, but I just felt it was a difficult transition that I had to get my mindset in line with umpiring. I was turning up to games to umpiring, but my mindset was still as a player, and it is completely different. And I did get frustrated with that. Early days, after a game, I'd walk off really, really tired, and I didn't really know what to feel, because you don't win or lose as an umpire. You just walk off and hopefully you've done a good job, and then you go home. But I got so used to, over the years, giving everything, walking off and having a winning or losing feeling, that wasn't there, and I really felt it was a really strange feeling. And it probably took 2 or 3 years before I really transferred from being a player to an umpire.
And how did your former teammates during that period approach you? Did they understand why you wanted to become an umpire, or was there a bit of tension?
No, there was no tension. I think that in Australia anyway, players hadn't moved into umpiring. I was probably one of the first to do it. So at the first, it was a bit of a giggle. What are you doing? What are you going over there? You want to be an umpire? And I said, well, I'm not really sure I want to be an umpire, but I want to have a go at it, and I want to, challenge myself to do something within the game that, it's going to give me a challenge in the future. I knew that once I retired, I needed something to replace cricket, and that would be it. So that was why I went into umpiring. But a few of my mates who are still playing, they just had a bit of a giggle, and I wasn't really sure myself whether it was the right thing to do. But so it was fine. There was certainly no tension. And when I went out to umpire and they were playing and I had to make decisions on them, I was a bit worried early that may there'd be a conflict there and it'd be a bit funny. But it was actually easier to umpire the guys that I'd played with, because we were quite relaxed, and the respect was there straight away, and we just got on with the game. So it worked out pretty well.
One of the most controversial areas of umpiring now is the influence of technology. Where do you stand on how it should be used and how much should be used in the game?
There's no use trying to go backwards, because technology's coming into the game. So you've got to embrace it. And it is a different way of umpiring, there's no doubt about it. And it can be strange to use it after you're coming through the ranks without it.
Yeah.
You kind of umpire one way and all of a sudden get to the top and you've got to umpire a different way. So it can be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting the correct decisions. And by using technology, we get closer to 100%.
Yeah.
And that's good. And you can't argue with that. But we must always keep developing the technology to make sure we can try and get 100%. I don't think you ever can. But if we can get as close as possible, then that's great for the game, great for everyone. Games that I've done with the use of DRS and technology, very little tension in the game, very little dissent, because all decisions are corrected at the time and everyone moves on. Whether it goes against the team that's a referred decision or goes with them, there's no whinging, there's no whining for the rest of the game. There's not a batsman out there who I've given not out goes on to make 100 and everyone whinges about it for the rest of the game, and you hear it in the press, and it doesn't happen. It gets changed, decisions done and dusted there, and I found that the games with the technology use is easier games to umpire.
That's a much more positive response than I was expecting. And one of the criticisms of technology from some of the high-profile commentators is that it takes responsibility away from the on-field umpire. But what you've just said suggests that it actually makes your job easier because it removes an element of doubt about amongst the competitors.
Well, it does. I've still got to do my job. I've still got to make my decisions. It doesn't help me make my decision at all. I've got to make the decision on the ground in real time. But what it does do is confirm it or change it, and it's done and dusted there. We don't, as I said before, you don't hear about it forever. You don't read about it in the press tomorrow. Everyone forgets about it and moves on, and the game's better for it.
Looking back a bit to your playing career now, you're Victoria's leading Shield wicket taker. What are your fondest memories of your playing career?
Mate, just the involvement. I just love being involved as a professional cricketer. Every day it was all about cricket. I've always loved cricket. So just the involvement of the proud feeling that you represented Victoria or Australia, and that was your cricket team. You know, thousands of cricketers play every week in their club, and they're proud and they wear their club. But my club was Victoria, my club was Australia, and that's a great feeling, and I kind of love that. So just being involved. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're playing for Australia, Victoria, your club or whatever. You end up playing with 11 mates.
Yeah.
And you just go out and play. And I've played some really big games, big tours. At the end of the day, there was a lot of media hype around it, but we just kind of, it was just like playing with 11 mates, and you played for them and they played for you, and that was what it was about. And that happens every Saturday, right around the country, and and that's what I enjoy.
You mentioned your involvement with Victoria and Australia. Your club side within Melbourne is Richmond. You're a Hall of Fame member for the Tigers. Your father and grandfather have an association with the Tigers brand, both in cricket and football. There's a lot of attention on club cricket at the moment. The Bradman oration, Cricket Australia is talking the game up. Where do you see club cricket at the moment in Australia?
As I said before, being part of a club is a great experience for anybody, and I loved it. And I played in 2 premierships for Richmond, and those 2 premierships, those 2 days are as big as anything that I've done in cricket. I was involved in Sheffield Shield wins and World Cup wins, but at the time when you're playing that game, club cricket, it's as big as you get. So I look back really fondly at that and think that without that club grounding, then I certainly wouldn't have come through. And I worked my way through the 11s there at Richmond, and it was a really good grounding to go on and be a first class player.
Do you have a message or any advice to anybody that's thinking about joining the ranks?
It all depends what you would like to get out of the game. There's many things you can get out of the game. To me, I didn't realise you've got the best seat in the house without actually playing the game. You're standing right there amongst it. People who can't do it anymore, you're certainly involved in the game, certainly a big part of the game, and you're right in the middle of the game. And I would think that if anyone out there who would want to go and umpire a club game and just be involved in cricket again, it's the perfect way of being involved, and you're still out there doing your stuff, and it's really enjoyable. If you're really, really serious and you can work your way to international level, you can be standing there in the middle of the MCG. And that's a great incentive as someone who's thought, well, I was never good enough as a player. How can I get there? Well, you can. You can be in the middle of some amazing things. I did the Bangladesh in Bangladesh the Asia Cup, and I was umpiring when Sachin Tendulkar got his 100th. Okay, he battled his way through the 90s. The pressure was obviously on him, and I could see that the pressure was going to come onto me. He gets hit on those pads, I'm going to have to give him out in the 90s, you know. So all of a sudden, I'm really involved in the game, and the game. He got his 100, and he's standing right next to me. You know, at that moment, I'm right there. When David Warner in the 2020 at ANZ Stadium last year turned around and switch hit that thing 27 rows back, well, I was standing right next to him. You know, and the crowd went off, and I'm part of it, and I've got the best seat in the house. I don't think people really realise that it can be achieved.
Paul, thank you very much for your insights. That was fascinating.
No worries. Pleasure.
Paul Reiffel for The Sledge.